Are you a victim or are you in power? I want to share with you this really powerful tool that I use personally and in my coaching with my clients. It's called the victim power model. And the idea is that the most powerful tool you have for change is your own integrity and your own honesty. So one of the models that I use, or the question sequences that I ask myself, and my husband and I ask each other these questions as well. It's a series. It's sort of when you find yourself in a struggle point where you're in a position that you don't want to be in of any kind, we go by this 4-step process. See it for what it is. In other words, don't sugarcoat it. If you need to lose weight, don't tell yourself you're not as big as your neighbor, for example. See it as it is. See the problem for what it is without sugarcoating it. The second step is equally important. Not worse than it actually is, which we tend to do. When we actually admit that we have a problem or something going on, we tend to get really down on ourselves and think, oh, poor me, poor me. It's not useful. So see it for what it is. Don't sugarcoat it, but not worse than it actually is. Then the third step is create a vision. What do you want to have instead? It's very easy to get caught up in what you don't want. But the third piece of this is challenge yourself to create a vision for what you do want instead. And then the fourth step, which we'll get into with this one, is take a step. You don't have to create the entire thing today, but take one step toward it. Create that vision, that bigger picture vision, and then just take one step toward it. One of the number one reasons that I see people fail towards achieving their goals, whether they be weight loss or business related or career focused or even in relationships, is that once we create the vision, we try to go after the entire vision all at once. Like, I want it now. And that's great. That's so powerful. That motivation and inspiration is wonderful. But if it takes too much energy to sustain a change, you're likely to fall back into old patterns. So rather than going after the biggest step, what's the smallest step that's going to create the biggest result? The smallest change will have the biggest impact, rather than what's a big change I can make so I can have a huge impact. And when you take small changes that have big impacts, and then another small change that has another big impact, you create massive impact from small change. But here's where people get trapped, and this is where this is going to become really handy. So I call this the victim power model. You'll see that we have 2 cycles. We've got the problem in the middle, and the problem is the same. We're going to imagine that we're going to work with the same problem 2 ways. You have the problem here, and at the bottom you have the victim cycle, and at the top you have the power cycle. And either way, you have about 6 steps that you can take when you have a problem experience. So let's use weight loss as an example. I want to lose weight. So first we need to see it for what it is. I have extra weight. Not worse than it actually is. Oh, I'll never be able to solve this problem. I'll always be overweight. Make a vision. I want to lose 20 pounds. Take a step. I'm going to drink green smoothies every morning for a week. That's it. Not changing anything else. So here's how this works. Here's my problem. I need to lose weight. But let's imagine first that we're in the victim mindset. If we're in a victim mindset, it might look something like this. Here I am, I need to lose weight. The immediate thing we start to do is compare. You're either comparing yourself to how you used to be, or comparing yourself to where you're not in the future, or you compare yourself to others. By the way, judgment is a form of comparing yourself to others or comparing yourself against others. I actually say that when you're judging somebody, you're actually seeing in them what you don't like in yourself. My mom always says, if you see it, you got it. So here we are. The first thing we do is compare, which evokes an automatic reaction. You naturally are going to have an emotional reaction or an emotional experience to some kind of comparison. I'm disappointed that I gained 5 pounds. I'm frustrated or angry at myself that 5 years have gone by and I still haven't lost it, maybe even gained more. I'm jealous because my coworker did the paleo diet and she lost 30 pounds, but I can't make it stick for myself. So you have this automatic reaction as a result of the comparison, and it creates this illusion that we're not in control. So in a victim cycle, you actually maintain and adopt the mentality that you are not in control. The most dangerous place to be, because if you're not in control, then you're at the mercy of the world and everybody else around you. So here we are, not in control, and we begin to resist. We resist anything that may help us create a solution or a change to the experience that we're having. Somebody suggests a diet or, eat more vegetables and exercise. Well, I tried that before, it doesn't work. Or it's too expensive. We begin to resist anything that could potentially change our situation, justifying, rationalizing, reasoning. This is where excuses and self-sabotage come in. The final piece of this is you stay stuck. When you resist any action, you stay stuck. And when you stay stuck, the pain problem gets bigger. Here I am still. The comparison gets greater. The emotional reactions get stronger. We reaffirm the idea that we're not in control. That belief becomes more solid, and we resist more powerfully. And because we believe that we're not in control, and when we have a belief, we like to prove ourselves right. So the resistance becomes greater, and we stay stuck for longer, and we just go around and around and around in that cycle. Can you see yourself in some of that? You could apply this to anything. The amount of money you have in your bank account, the relationships you're in. How did you create the relationship that you're in? How did you create the reaction that your partner has to overspending? How did you create the habits that are going on in your work environment? In a victim mindset, you're never going to think that way. You're always going to be thinking about how you're the victim, how things are creating your experience. But let's take a moment and let's shift up into the power cycle. Notice we have the same problem. Nothing's changed about that. But something different is going to happen in the steps that we take to create that change. The first step let's again using weight loss as the example. The first step in this power cycle is that we accept. Okay, I need to lose weight. This is that 4-step process. See it for what it is, not worse than it is, right? I just accept it as it is. This is me. This is my problem. And then we take that in the here and now. So if we're in the present, we're almost acting like we're taking a magic eraser to our past. Imagine if this was the first experience you've ever had with this problem. How would you approach it differently? For example, if you had never experienced being overweight before, you might say, okay, I'm willing to try. Give me the vegetables. Show me the exercise. Let's see how it works. As opposed to saying, oh, I've done that a million times. Nothing ever works for me, right? We accept it in the here and now. Take the frame of mind that this is the first experience you've ever had with this problem. How would you approach it differently? And as a result of that, we determine that you are the one responsible for making change. If your situation is going to change, you're the one responsible. A piece of this is that the next step, which seems a little bit funny, is that the next step is that you have to own that power. So you first have to determine that that's your responsibility, but it's actually separate to accept and own that responsibility. We can know that it's our responsibility to change something and still not do anything about it. So the fifth step of this is to own that responsibility. And then the next is to make moves or seek opportunity. Because something really powerful happens when you adopt a power mindset as opposed to a victim mindset. Something really amazing happens when you take and own the ownership of your responsibility. And it's that you begin to seek opportunity where before you were resisting and staying stuck. Well, let's say that you are in the power mindset and you make all these changes and you still haven't lost weight. If you're in a power mindset, you'll look at that not as a failure, not as, oh, see, I tried everything I could and it's still not working. What can I do differently? What can I tweak? What can I change? Where is the opportunity? In a power mindset, you're always asking yourself, what's next? Where is there the next step? If you're building a coaching practice and you have a conversation with a client who says no to your program, if you're in a victim mindset, you'll be thinking, oh, nobody wants to buy my program, as opposed to asking, what could I have changed in the way that I approach that conversation? I recently had a conversation by email with a woman who expressed interest in getting some strategies to stay focused and present in her work. And right away, I invited her to a coaching conversation and I asked her to agree to my really intense conditions to go into that conversation. And she responded, actually, that sounds like too much of a commitment. I'll get in touch at a later time. And I first thought like, I felt a little victimized and took it a little bit personally. And then I actually stepped back and I thought, why would she agree to any of those conditions? If I look back at our conversation, I didn't provide her any reason to believe that she was going to get value from that conversation. I didn't beat myself up for it. I didn't see it as worse than it was. I just decided, okay, well, I can see how I created that response. So the basic difference between the victim and the power mindset is that you are taking ownership, that you are absolutely the creator of your own experience. I believe that we live in a mirroring universe, which means that the world is not good, is not bad. Everything you're experiencing is created for you, by you. And it's actually a really empowering stance to take, right? Because if your transformation depends on you, then you don't have to wait for anyone else or anything else to change. So I encourage you to take a look at this. If you want a copy of it, email me at vanessa@sweatandbutter.com and I'm happy to send it with you or share it to you. But I have seen this change just implementing the simple tool. My clients have come to me and said that they shared it with their coworkers at work, and now they're using it in their meetings to call each other out to determine who and when are they acting as a whole or as individuals in a victim or power mindset. I had a client use this once. I gave it to her, and a week later she came back and told me that she ended a very, very relationship that she was no longer happy in and hadn't been happy in for a long time. But until she realized that she was victimizing herself, she was staying stuck. And when she switched and shifted into the power mindset, she ended the relationship, and she's actually now with a guy that she's crazy about. So there's a very, very simple trick to implementing this. You're identifying and experiencing your problem. You immediately know if you're in the victim mindset, if you're comparing yourself, to your past, to your future, or to others. If you catch yourself comparing, you just switch right away to acceptance. There's a simple sentence: I accept that this is my problem. Here and now, I accept that this is my problem. Acceptance is the trigger point that switches you from the victim cycle to the power cycle. So I'd love to hear from you, to share what insights you have as a result of this, where you want to implement this first. If you'd like support, please share in the comments or the questions below. Share it with a friend, share it with a family member, but more than anything, take action.